الله أكبر الله أكبر.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهدي ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. أما بعد, first I'd just like to apologize for being late. I know that Juma in America falls in the work week, so whenever somebody's running a little bit behind, everybody start getting nervous, wondering whether or not they're going to be able to get back to work on time. So inshallah, since the khatib is also on his lunch break, inshallah we'll all be getting back to work on time, or we'll all be needing new jobs together, inshallah. So we just wanted to talk briefly about one of the great heroes of this religion. Just briefly, last week or 2 weeks ago in Islamic studies, we talked about Abdullah ibn Umar. May Allah be pleased with him and his father. And I was very hoarse because I was sick. So then I had to give the Juma on this Friday. So I said, well, I'll just talk about Abdullah ibn Umar, since I don't know if I really got my point across. But then I said to myself, you know, sometimes you go to a class and a person will give a class, and then you'll go to Juma and he'll talk about the same thing, and you'll be like, well, I'm not going to class next week. So instead of talking about Abdullah ibn Umar, we're going to talk about Hassan ibn Ali. May Allah be pleased with him and his father. So just as Abdullah ibn Umar, he was the son of one of the rightly guided khulafa, or successors to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abdullah ibn Umar's son or father was Umar ibn al-Khattab, and that's very noble. He's from a noble family with a noble heritage. But Hassan radiallahu anhu, he's from the noblest of all family trees, because his mother was the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Fatima, and his father was Ali ibn Abi Talib, and his grandmother was Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the mother of the believers, and his grandfather was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's no nobler family to be from than the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, we fall in the middle in our respect. We have love and respect for the Prophet's companions all together. So we don't single some of the companions out and denigrate any of the companions of the Prophet. And also we have love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's family all together. And so being from a noble family and having a noble lineage, that's not going to guarantee you paradise. You still have to do the works that'll guarantee you that Allah will have mercy on you. But the status of Ali and the status of Fatima and the status of Hassan and Hussein was very special. Because one time, and this is the Hadith of the Cloak, and this Hadith is authentic, but sometimes it's misused. So one time, Fatima, she was carrying porridge, and the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw her and said, Aina ibna'i, where are my sons? Meaning Hassan and Hussein. And so she went back and she got Hassan and Hussein and Ali. May Allah be pleased with them all. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he got a black cloak and he wrapped all four of them in the cloak. And he said, Allahumma innahum ulai Ahl Al Bayti fa azhib anhum ar-rijs wa tahiruhum tahiran. So he said he had this dua while he had them wrapped in a cloak, and this Salama, he was in his wife Salama's house, so she witnessed it and she reported the hadith. And she also said, could I get in the cloak? Because anytime the Prophet ﷺ is making a dua, you know, you want to be in it too. So he said, stay where you are, anti-khair, you're good, stay where you are. And so he said this hadith, and this dua, which means, O Allah, verily these are my family, so remove from them abomination and purify them with a purification. So, or something to that effect. I only wrote the Arabic, so I'm not a translator, so now I'm like, maybe I should have wrote some English down too. But something to that effect. So what this hadith means for the Muslims is that those people are from the Ahl Al Bayt, and they are free from major sins and abominations because the Prophet ﷺ made that dua that they would be. This doesn't mean that they're infallible and that anything that they say is a religious ruling for us, because they can make mistakes like everybody else can make mistakes outside of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for us, it does give them a very special status, and this was the Prophet's family. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he wanted us to love his family. And one time he had Hassan, and he prayed to Allah. He said, Ana uhibbuhu fa'ahibhu wa ahib man yuhibbu. He said, I love him, so love him and love those who love him. So we could all just make dua in our heart right now that we have love for the Prophet's family, alayhim salam, all of them together, and that we do not disrespect his family. And then we see things that happen in history, and it's the main thing, because a lot of times when we come to Islam and we're from the United States, we think we already know everything because we grew up in America. Know what I'm saying? So being from any nation has its good and bad attributes. Whether you're from India, whether you're from China, there's certain attributes that the people have of that nation that's going to be good, and certain things that's going to be bad. But you have to be able to realize, okay, as an American, there's some things that makes me uniquely an American. And some of those things are good, and some of those things are bad. One of the bad things that I think sometimes we come to the religion and we want to teach everybody about the religion, even though they might have been Muslim for 1,400 years or something. I remember one time I gave a khutbah right here, matter of fact, and I was talking about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And then when I finished, I got met at the door. I didn't even get to get out of the door. But I said, brother, I gotta talk to you. And then he started telling me all of this stuff. And yeah, brother, you gonna tell us them kind of khutbah's gonna alienate people and they not gonna wanna come to the masjid. I said, man, if somebody got a problem with Abu Bakr, maybe they don't need to go to the masjid. You know what I'm saying? So as Muslims, when we see the fitna that happened amongst the Muslims, we should never think, oh, well, if I was there, I'd have did the right thing, and I knew more than they know, or how could they have made those decisions? All of those people, we just ask Allah to have mercy on them and forgive them for their sins, ejma'een. So Hassan, one of the great things about Hassan, why he stands out in my mind, just knowing Muslim leaders in general, is because I don't want to get too much into the fitna, but the fitna took place between Imam Ali and Muawiyah. And so Imam Ali, it started after the death of Uthman, and then Imam Ali became the Caliph, and then him and Muawiyah, there was a fitna. And so Imam Ali was actually assassinated by the Khawarij. And so after his assassination, both armies were still ready to go. They both, you know, you got this camp, you got that camp, we ready to wage war. And so during this fitna that lasted for 6 years, the Muslims reported no conquest of non-Muslim areas, and they weren't able to do dawah to the non-Muslims for 6 years. It was a fitna. Hassan, he didn't like fighting, and he didn't like bloodshed. And so he abdicated his call to be the Caliph, even though he was more worthy of it than Muawiyah. And so when he did this, all of the Muslims came under one leader again. And this hadn't happened since the death of Uthman. So for 6 years, there was Muslim camps. You had the camp of Ali, you had the camp of Muawiyah, and then you had the Muslims that stayed neutral. And then Hassan, he gave up his call to be the leader. Even though he had an army, he fought with his father, and he fought before, so it's not like he was a coward, but he didn't want to see the fitna continue. And so if we look around the Muslim world today, you can understand why we need people like Hassan, radiallahu anhu. Because Muslim leaders, the good and the bad, they usually go out in a casket. It's like, I'm not giving this up. You be like, wait a minute, man, this is a war going on. All you gotta do is give it up. They say, no, I'm not giving this up, I'm right. And you know, usually one part is right, one part is wrong. I'm not here to say that there's no right and wrong, but sometimes what's more correct is to give up fighting. And we should know that even in our daily lives. So we see this group of Muslims is arguing with this group of Muslims. People want us to get involved. We should take the stance of Imam Hassan. And we just say, I'm neutral. I'm not getting involved in that. And then Hassan did this, and his own people, the people of Kufa and the followers of his father, they used to say, you've dishonored the Muslims, that you've dishonored the believers. Every time he would pass them, not like they said it for a minute, for the rest of his life, he would pass people and they would say, you dishonored the believers. Because when people are fighting and it becomes a way of life, they don't want to give it up. You say, okay, look, man, we just gonna give this up. Talk to people who used to gangbang. Be like, okay, I used to be a gangbanger. You know that these people right here, they might have killed somebody, and you look at them as all one. It's like you don't look at it as an individual, like this person right here might not have had nothing to do with the death, but he belonged to that group, so all of them had something to do with it. And you're in the other group, You don't never want to give up the battle. Like when I was a kid in Oakland, in Los Angeles, Chicago, people just killing. It was like senseless to the people on the outside. The people on the inside, they always had a reason to keep it going. They was like, we just gonna do it one more time. You know what I'm saying? So, but Hassan, he was above that. Even though he had the right to be the Khalif of the Muslims, he said, I'm not gonna continue this fight. And so he gave it up. And so when he gave it up, this period of history is called Jama'ah. This is the year of togetherness in Islamic history, when the Muslims all came together under one leader. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he said in an authentic hadith about Hassan, may Allah be pleased with him, he picked him up one day and he put him on his shoulders and he said, this one is Sayyid, and Sayyid is like a leader or a master. So we have other hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, don't call people master. Only Allah is the master. But that was a specific incident where he was talking to a specific group of people. So sometimes things are specific. So if you see somebody calling somebody a Sayyid, you shouldn't say, well, the Messenger of Allah said, don't call people Sayyid. He was speaking to a specific, it was a specific group of people, and they were Arabs. They used to do like, they would do like that praise, over the top praise of people. So when they saw the Prophet ﷺ, they were doing praise like this. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, don't call me master, only Allah is the master, talking to that group of people. But here in this hadith, when he's talking about Hassan, he said, Al-Hassan Sayyid. Hassan is the leader, or he's the master. وَلَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يَصْلَحْ بِهِ بَيْنَ فِئَتَيْنِ عَظِيمَتَيْنِ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He said, Hassan, he's the leader, and perhaps, so in Arabic when you say la'alla, usually it means maybe or perhaps. But when you see it in the Quran, or when you see it when the Prophet is saying it about something about the future, it means, usually it means definitely. Definitely, in this sense, he will make islah, or he'll make peace between two groups of the Muslims. And that's exactly what the Hassan, may Allah be pleased with him, he did that in his lifetime. And so this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, this one is Sayyid, because he was going to do this. And some of the members of Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, they say that Imam Mahdi will be a descendant of Imam Al Hassan, even though many people say he'll be a descendant of Hussein. But the reason they say that he'll be a descendant of Hassan is because Hassan gave up his leadership to bring the Muslims together. And Imam Mahdi will actually be a leader. His leadership will bring the Muslims back together. So they say it's only befitting, and Allah knows best, that the one who gave up leadership to bring the Muslims together, his descendant will be the leader that'll bring the Muslims together. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalat wassalam ala Sayyidina al-Anbiya'i wa Mursaleen, Nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulullahu ta'ala fil Qur'an al-Kareem, inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. So we just wanted to talk briefly about Imam Hassan And I think the reason why it's important is because a lot of times, you know, if we grew up maybe all going to Muslim schools, we would hear about personalities from Islamic history. But since the majority of us live in the United States, you don't get an outlet other than Jummah to really hear about Islam. So I think it's important that we highlight these individuals along with the Prophet ﷺ, because when we see how those individuals were, it teaches us how we should be, and it actually helps us strive. So I knew one brother who he was diabetic, and he couldn't give up candy, just always eating it, even though he was diabetic. And so he read about Imam Nawawi, and how Imam Nawawi, he didn't used to eat the fruit of Damascus because he thought that the land that the fruit was grown on had been usurped. And so Damascus was known for its fruit groves. And so he said if Imam Nawawi could give up fruit, and it's not for a health benefit, he didn't do it because he was diabetic, I should be able to give up candy. So, you know, alhamdulillah, the person gave up candy for a little while. But so as Muslims, we should learn about the people of Islam, because I think that a lot of times when all we hear about is keeping up with the Kardashians and, you know, the basketball wives and the Real Housewives of this place, that stuff actually has a bad effect on our psyche. But when we learn about the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, Ejma'een, it'll actually be like medicine for our souls. So all of us, we should endeavor to, even if you just go on YouTube and listen to some lectures about some of the people that was around the Prophet ﷺ, because they were the best of the people. Prophet ﷺ said, Khairun nas qarni, the best of people is my generation, meaning the Sahaba. Thumma alladhina yalunahum, then those who follow them, meaning those who follow the Sahaba, the Tabi'i. Thumma alladhina yalunahum, and then those who follow them, meaning those after. And if we look at Islamic history, we see that most of our greatest personalities came from those first three generations, whether you're talking about Hadith sciences or the sciences of fiqh. Most of our greatest personalities came from that. Not to mean that there are not other great personalities that exist after those generations, but the mean is higher and the standard deviation is less. So when you got a lower, for all the people who took statistics, you got a lower average and then a bigger standard deviation, it's gonna be hard to get as many quality people. And so we just know now that those were the best generations. Allahumma ihdina fi man hadait, wa afina fi man afait, wa tawallana fi man tawallait, innaka takti wa la yukta alayk. Allahumma ansur al-Islami wa izzal muslimin wa thabit aqdam mujahideen fi kulli makan ya Rabbal Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidina al-anbiya'i wa mursaleen nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Aqimus salat.